So Chintan,
Yes,
let
sir,
us
okay.
start.
So my name is Chintan Bhimsen. I am in presently a Wednesday surgical unit, and I am presenting the topic on the upper urinary tract injuries. Sir, on the basis, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, continue.
So on the basis of the mode of the injuries, the renal injuries are divided into the blunt renal trauma and the penetrating renal traumas. But in the most commonly the trauma is presented in all is the blunt abdominal trauma. The isolated renal trauma are presented in by the means less than 3%, and the rest are the trauma is presented along with the liver, spleen, and pancreatic injuries, sir. The site of the renal injuries, retroperitoneal point of the fixation is the most common cause of the most common site for the trauma. The renal hilum and the uretropelvic junction are more prone to injure. If the injury is at the anterior axillary line, so the renal hilum and the uretropelvic junction are more prone to damage. If the damage is at the posterior axillary line, the injuries are more prone at the renal parenchyma. The most common mode of the penetrating injuries are the site are the upper abdomen, flank, lower chest. Most commonly, the patient presented with the
no blunt injury. No blunt
sir.
injury.
Patient presented patient came with the blunt. Patient came.
So he can come with a blunt injury also, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
because the kidney is considerably fixed as compared to ureter and the pelvic part, we routinely get an injury over there. Okay, continue.
Most commonly, the presentation of the patient. Patient came with the hematuria, flank hematoma, abdominal, and the flank tenderness. Patient may come with the rib fracture, penetrating injury to the lower thorax or the flank. The best indicator of the renal trauma is the hematuria, but the degree of the hematuria is always not correlated with the severity of injury, because in certain injuries, the hematuria like renal vessels or any uretropelvic injuries, it may be not associated with the hematuria. So for the investigation of investigation, the first aliquot of the stream of the urine, which is collected from the catheter or the urine, is checked, is sent for the urine routine microscopical examination. If the RBCs are more than five high field, high power field, then we can consider that there is a microscopic hematuria.
See, nowadays it has changed. In spite of 5 RBC, now it is 3 RBC. If RBC is more than 3, then you have to consider as a macroscopic. After 2 times, you check the urine for the macroscopic image. Okay.
This is the picture suggesting the flank hematoma in the lower abdomen, ma'am. Lower abdomen. The evaluation of the investigation. Whenever patient came to the emergencies, the primary survey has to done. We have to assess the patient like airway, breathing, circulation, disability, and we have to expose the patient. But the most important part of this survey is the FAST. In the FAST, FAST is the focus assessed with the sonography for trauma, in which the surgeon, in the trauma surgeon or any physician can do a emergency sonography in the hemodynamically unstable patients, the surgeon or physician will look for the any collection in the right hypochondrium or left hypochondrium in the renal fossa to check whether there is any collection, if there is collection or not. The secondary survey, the CT scan and the USG can be done in the urinary tract upper urinary tract injuries. The CT scan is the gold standard investigation. The indications for the renal imaging. There are certain indications. If the patient came with blunt abdominal trauma, patient maybe either patient is hemodynamically stable or not stable. Though if the patient is came with the penetrating trauma and the patient is hemodynamically stable, if the patient came with the blunt abdominal trauma and the patient is having any significant acceleration or deceleration mechanism, like patient have a history of high velocity of RTA, or a patient came with the blunt abdominal trauma with the gross hematuria, blunt abdominal trauma with microhematuria, and the systolic blood pressure is less than 90%, then we should go for the renal images like a CT scan. So there are certain grade they are given by the American Association for Surgery of Trauma. In the grade 1, there is a contusion in the microscopic or gross hematuria, that is with a normal urological studies, in which the hematoma that is subscapular and non-expanding from the renal capsule. In the grade 2, there is a hematoma that is present posterior to the renal parenchyma, and the laceration is less than 1 centimeter. But the hematoma that does not spread to posterior to the renal capsule. In the grade 3, the hematoma is present. There is a laceration more than 1 centimeter. The hematoma is present to the posterior to the renal capsule, and but it does not reach up to the renal pelvis. In the grade 4, there is the parenchymal laceration that is extending toward the renal cortex, medulla, and the collecting system, and which include the there is a avulsion or main renal artery or vein with contaminated hemorrhages. In the grade 5, there is a completely shattered kidney. There is the hematoma is spread in all the cortex, medulla, and the collecting system, and the renal hilum is also there is avulsion of the renal hilum. CT scan.
Just a minute, Chintan.
Yes,
Sanjay, do you want to have any add-on comment, or Rohit?
I think he's going up till now with classification of injury. It's perfect, sir.
Perfect. So this is the one. What is the importance of this grading?
Grading is very important. Can you go back to one? Particularly with deciding the management plan, like in a grade 1, 2, and 3, by and large, it is going to be conservative management. Grade 4, it depends on the patient. You can manage patient is hemodynamically stable, patient is not showing much of the urinary extravasation, or which can be managed with the pigtail. Urinoma can be managed with the conservative management. But grade 5, by and large, most of the patient will require surgical intervention. So till grade 3, there is confirmed that most of the patients will come out with the non-operative management.
So for all residents, this is important. This is very important. But as Sanjay has last time also said in a first lecture, this is an isolated grading. It should always be considered along with the other solid organ injury.
Yes,
that
sir.
I think he will tell later on. But please keep all these figures in your mind, because when the management comes, this will become very important. Okay.
imaging studies, in the CT scan, the native phase, nephrogenic phase, and the excitatory phase is important in the identification of the to identify any contrast excretion and detection of the arterial extravasation, sir. Sir, in a CT scan, after the injection of the contrast material, the arteriovenous scanning is done 80 seconds after the contrast administration for the better visualization of the contrast excretion and to detect the arterial extravasation. Sir, in the uppermost picture, the native phase, there is a no contrast material present in the bilateral renal kidneys. In the nephrogenic phase, there the contrast has taken by the kidneys. So this is the picture after the 80 second after the, this is the 80 second after the contrast injection, and then there is a excitatory phase. In the left hand side slide, sir, the right there the blue arrow that is indicating that the particular portion has not uptaken the contrast material, so that is suggestive of any laceration in the left renal left kidney, and the red arrow that is suggestive of the hematoma present surrounding the left side of kidney. In the right side picture, there is a contrast material that is extravasated from the left side of the kidney. That is suggesting that any means there is any avulsion injury, there is avulsion injury or any injury that leads to the excretion of the urine out from the hilum or renal pelvis. Sir, limitation of the CT scan, the major limitation of the... Yes, sir.
Extravasation can be present in any of the grade, particularly more than grade 2 onwards. And it may come from the, major, whether it is renal hilar injury or other than renal hilar injury, like lobar arteries or from the active injured parenchyma. Okay. So extravasation is deciding your plan of management. Most of the time it requires surgical intervention because it is actively bleeding, so expanding hematoma would be there.
Okay.
And it is, extravasation doesn't mean that all the patient would have a renal hilar injury.
બરોબર છે, હું એમને રંજકને કહી દઉં છું કે ત્યાં આપી જાય. બરોબર છે. ભારતીબેનને ત્યાં આપી જાય છે. ઓકે. ઓકે. થેન્ક યુ.
The limitations of the CT scan. The CT scan cannot evaluate the proper venous injuries. If the CT scan is suggestive of the medial hematoma with normal arterial perfusion, normal parenchyma, and the contrast material in the collecting system, they may, so there might be a chances of the venous injuries. The other imaging modalities, the renal arteriography and the angioembolization. The as this figure suggestive that in nephrogenic phase, the contrast material has taken by the renal parenchyma. If there is a complete lack of uptake of the renal chyma occurs, then we can suspect then there is a thrombosis into the renal artery. So we have to go for the renal arteriography, and if there is a thrombus present and there is a active bleeding, so we can go for the angioembolization for that particular patient. A guide for the decision making. If the patient come with the blunt abdominal trauma and the patient is having the microscopic hematuria and the patient is hemodynamically stable, then we should directly go for the renal imaging like a CT scan. And we found, as the sir told, that if the patient is having grade 1, grade 2 or grade 3 renal injury, then we can keep the patient conservative and we can call up him for follow-up. If the patient came with the gross hematuria and the patient is hemodynamically unstable, so we have to immediately explore the patient. On the exploration, we have to we have to rule out whether there is associated ureter injury or not. So we have to check for intravenous pyelogram single shot on the table. In this procedure, we are injecting 2 mg per kg, 2 ml per kg IV contrast material. Then single picture that is taken after the 10 minutes. If there is an active leak from the ureter, then we can suspect then there is a ureteric injury, or there is a no injury, then we can go for the renal exploration. On the penetrating injuries.
Just a minute. Sanjay, you want to say something? Or Rohit? Welcome, Himanshu, you are here.
Yes, sir. Sorry for joining little late.
It's okay. What I want to know is that it is always, if the hematuria patient is unstable, you will straightway explore.
That is
No. That's
You have written that if patient with hematuria is unstable, you will straightway explore.
sir. This is the chart which has been there for years together. Those were the times which are different. Their time the modalities were
exactly.
not that much available,
Yes.
not accessible. So right now, if any patient who comes with a less than 90 systolic, doesn't mean that you explore him immediately. There is always a scope for stabilizing the patient, and now every imaging modality is quite accessible with each of the setup. So don't be in hurry to explore the things, and just and single shot IVP, I think in the current context is practically out of the scope. That is what I suggest. That's my opinion. Yeah, Himanshu bhai.
My view of single shot IVP is it should be reserved for those patients where we don't expect any renal injury, but it is our intraoperative finding. We are operating for the blunt trauma, we explore the abdomen, and if you find there is a retroperitoneal hematoma near the kidney, that is the only indication of IVP, single shot IVP. Just to confirm that opposite kidney is normal. Otherwise, for that routine cases, CT IVP is good pre-operatively.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I also think, before exploring a kidney, you need a CT.
Absolutely.
For sure.
These are older, very older, kind of plans. Now they no longer remain valid in the current context. So please
Okay.
update yourself. That's it.
That is why we are taking this. From where did you take it, Chintan?
Campbell.
Campbell, okay, fine. That is
It
okay.
must be
So
old.
you are not wrong. The thing is,
Yes.
any retroperitoneal hematoma, at least that is what we are being taught, that do a CT before, because retroperitoneal hematomas are very tricky.
And if you explore them, you are endangering
Even-
that a self-sufficient or a self-contained hematoma.
You are going to bad shape.
Yeah, bad to
So the
worse.
today's scenario, I think CT is must.
Must, yeah. Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
So
That's
how?
okay.
No, just for my knowledge, there is a one question which I have got for all three of you. That if we have done CT, so is it still IVP is necessary, single shot IVP?
No,
CT is done pre-operatively, then
then there is no role CT for
Exactly.
operative IVP.
IVP is, for me, it is out of context.
so that is now what it will also show the function of ureter if it is there.
Yes,
And
Absolutely.
depends upon then we will change our management. But
Absolutely.
if for all residents, there is nothing like that. As soon as you find unstable hematuria, explode. That was the old era and it has gone now. Right? So this is
Yes,
very
sir.
old. Yes. Okay.
Sir, that was the era when Dr. Pankaj Bhai used to, palpate the abdomen and used to tell us that go and open this patient is having peptic perforation. We never got an ultrasound, but now, so now everybody of us are not that good a clinician. So we
No,
need
there was a one patient day before yesterday. A
Okay.
patient was admitted, CT and everything was done.
Right.
It was suggestive of any non-specific coli ileitis that I palpated the patient, and remember whole day I told them, even though CT, whatever is saying, there will be a jejunal necrosis covered by omentum, go in and explore it. So the
Sir-
point, and it was like that, the point is that clinical should be
First thing.
equally important in
Absolutely.
today's scenario also. It should never be only based on a CT
Investigations, right? sir.
investigation in a way.
Right.
But this is old. I think we should not
Right.
follow this for all residents. We should always, now the CT, there is always a time for CT in a renal injury. There
Sir,
is
I
one
have a-
more. Yes,
I have an updated version of this. I will share with the residents.
yes,
I'll
please,
share.
please. You can share in chat also, or the later on you can send to me. I will share it. No problem.
Perfect.
There should be. Himanshu, one more question for
Yes.
These all, please remember, it is for isolated renal injury. We will not have that kind of thing all the time. Sanjay is always emphasizing for that. So will there be any change if the patient has associated other injury? This management of renal injury, Sanjay.
Yes, sir. That's what Himanshu bhai told, that
Yes.
when patient is unstable, many times with the fast positive
Yes.
finding, we take this patient directly for surgery because patient might have associated liver injury or splenic injury.
Yes.
And intraoperatively, if you are in doubt whether the renal perirenal hematoma is expanding or not, because of inexperienced surgeon might not be able to say that whether the hematoma is expanding or whether I should explore that hematoma or not, which is self-contained in a way. So there you can go for single shot intra-op IVP, just one
Yes.
shot,
Yes.
and
That's
assess the
it.
renal injury. If it is, like fitting into the criteria of non-operative management, don't explore, because by and large, most of the renal injuries will be managed non-operatively. And if it's a significant injury like lacerated kidney or hilar injury, then obviously that hematoma can be explored, and by and large you can go for a nephrectomy, because when patient is unstable, kidney shattered, requiring exploration, you are not going to have a conservative partial nephrectomy or like so.
Rohit, you were going to say something.
Sir, before we proceed, one thing which I would like all residents not to forget, the role of a good sonography with a good Doppler. For example, the patient is significantly unstable. We have taken inside the theater. You can always get a portable sonography, a portable Doppler, and that will be a huge help to us. So don't forget the role of sonography in Doppler. Sir.
Rohit, last time Himanshu was having this, we used to use word fast. That's what Sanjay said. Nowadays, it is a role that always do bedside ultrasonography. And it is must before taking any solid organ patient for a surgery. If there is no time for CT, fast is mandatory, and it helps a lot. That is what for resident understand this point, that even previously when you used to take a patient along with spleen, if there was some injury found in kidney, we used to simply remove it, but it should not be. Only indication, as Sanjay has categorically said, I think whether you understand it or not, the only patient whom they are very unstable, you have to do some exploration, and in that you find kidney which is very bad, so you should take a bold decision and remove kidney along with the spleen in those cases. But still, there is some problem. What about opposite kidney? Because when patient is taken without CT and very unstable patient, will it be justified to IVP at that time, or I don't know. Sanjay?
Sir, it depends. By and large, bilateral renal injury, when clinically, intraoperatively, you are seeing that only one-sided perinephric hematoma, it is unilateral in nature. But if you have a bilateral this thing, you cannot go with the either side nephrectomy without further investigation. Then I think packing is a good option.
Yeah.
Go for packing, stabilize the patient. Then later on, once the patient allows, go for CECT. Because you might inadvertently do nephrectomy on a milder variety side and leave the more severe injured kidney on other side, which is non-functioning in nature.
Yes. In addition to this, also keep in mind there might be previously one kidney might have been removed, might be non-functioning, or maybe disease. So if there is any of this doubt, it is preferred that you pack it, do the other intraperitoneal organ surgery, whatever is required, and leave for another day. I think that should be kept in mind. Okay. Yes.
Management part.
Yes.
Non-operative management.
Just a minute before management. Suppose the patient is stable. What is the role of renal scan? Develop habit to say, I don't know, sir.
Sir, I don't know, sir.
Then we will ask Himanshu bhai or Sanjay.
No, sir. Even I don't know what is the role of renal scan.
Exactly. Because somebody asked me in an exam, when I was an examiner, that, okay, you find isolated renal injury, CT is non-conclusive. Is there? I personally find there is no role of CT scan. But
there is no role, no role in trauma at least.
Exactly. So if somebody
in our one patient, patient was having hernia in the inguinal region after the trauma. And we treated, I consulted Pankaj Bhai and he told that you treat this patient conservatively, do not explore at this stage. We get the renal scan of that patient because there was retroperitoneal hematoma and there was only 10% function of that kidney.
Okay.
After 3 months, we again repeated and it was 80% function. So don't jump for surgery for that
exactly.
case.
The point what I was going to raise, there is a role of a renal scan in a follow-up. You have treated the patient, there is a totally different issue. I think we'll discuss it later, but acute cases when there is a no time, CT is sufficient, no role of scan. But on the contrary, remember in a case with the previous renal trauma comes for a follow-up because a grade 1, 2 and 3 injury we always keep conservatively. And yes, he will discuss in ureter. There is a role of renal scan for a chronic cases. In acute condition, there is no role of renal scan. Okay, do you agree? I think so. Okay.
Sir, in grade 1 to 3.
Sorry. Sanjay, did you discuss? Because there was an important one. Did you use the role of angio?
Yes, sir. In angiography, we'll discuss it a bit later.
Yes, in management. Okay, fine. Okay, yes. Please carry on, Chintan.
Sir, in grade 1, 2, and 3 injury, if the patient is hemodynamically stable, so we have to keep patient conservatively. If patient come with the grade 4 and the grade 5 injury, initially we should keep him conservative. If the patient deteriorate, like patient is hemodynamically unstable, the abdominal patient is having complaint of abdominal distension, or so in grade 5 we can explore the patient.
There is nothing like we can. We can, nothing like we can. You should give proper guidelines, Chintan. I am not going to tell you to operate tomorrow, so don't worry. Right? So in very clear message, grade 1, 2 and 3. Right? Usually, most of the time patient doesn't require. Yes, you were saying something?
Yeah, Chintan, you should first narrate the aims of the management. The aims of the management is always like, life-saving, then renal salvage. That is the priority on which your management plan should be. So if somebody is having a life-threatening conditions, you always give priority to life. If somebody's life is not at stake, then your priority should always be to salvage as much kidney function as possible. So that is your aims of management. And then you can categorize your, different strategies. Go ahead.
Other adjuvant procedures, angioembolism and the digest stenting. If the patient came with renal arterial thrombosis, then immediately we can go for the angioembolism. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, continue.
In the if the renal angiography is suggestive that there is a there is a bridge and the patient is hemodynamically unstable and there is a active bleeding is present, so the angioembolism can be a management of choice for that.
Chintan, the point is that what is meaning of management? So angioembolism will come, but when?
Yes, Chintan.
Yes, Sanjay.
Previous slide also in angioembolization. Now, angioembolization, what you are meaning is little bit different. It is not just for the renal artery hilar injuries. Okay, if you find that the renal artery thrombosis is there, by and large, angioembolization is not to be done or it is not required. What you require from CECT finding, if there is a contrast extravasation, you can come to know that from which artery, branch of the artery, renal artery is bleeding, then you can go for angioembolization, that is selective embolization of a lobar artery, okay, from the upper lobe, middle or lower or whichever the branch of that artery is bleeding. So that will, with the selective embolization, you can prevent surgical management, okay. Now, when there is a renal artery thrombosis, then there is a very efficient management. Say, for example, if you are diagnosed it very fast and you know that renal artery thrombosis is there, and within the warm ischemia time, if you can take up in the theater, you can go for reimplantation, okay? Auto reimplantation. But very few times you can go for, because patient might not come early. At the same time, you may take somewhat time for diagnosing and taking it to the theater. But if it is going beyond warm ischemia time, then patient is going to end up with a nephrectomy sooner or later, because it is going to be a non-functioning kidney. If patient is stable, you can enter later. If patient is unstable because of the other injuries, you may require to do together. But angioembolization per se is a part or adjunct of management of a non-operative management, irrespective of the grade of injury, when patient has a bleeding from or extravasation from one of the arteries, branch of the artery.
So that is again going to be the salvage mode. See, in a lower artery injury, if you open up, there is always a chance you will end up and doing a nephrectomy. So you can always buy some time doing in selective or a super selective embolization. You can coil that particular branch, and you can have a tamponade of that particular bleeding. Then you might not have at all to explore, and you can buy some time to stabilize the patient. So it's a bridging method. You don't have to rush for that. I think that's right, Sanjay.
Perfect, Rohit bhai.
The one more point is that do not confuse what Sanjay has said. There is no purpose of usually embolizing whole renal artery. Then you are only thing you are doing, you are hastening the nephrectomy. It's auto nephrectomy there.
It's auto.
So remember, that is not only for a grade 4 and 5. For a 5, again, renal embolization, I don't know, Sanjay.
It will not work.
It will not work because the kidney shattered, vascular injury is there. To do embolization only for stopping the bleeding is not justifiable. It is usually in some selected cases of grade 4 and sometime in grade 3 also. I think grade 1 and 2 rarely requires in emergency anything of this. In a long run, there might be formation of aneurysm, and that's a different thing. But for a particular this pattern, grade 3 and 4, in selected cases, you may need it. So what are the criteria to choose for them? Means it is randomly, you cannot feel that, okay, I will do embolization today, I am in mood of embolization. It cannot be done like that.
Yeah. So for that, first of all,
Chintan, whenever you ask for a CT scan, don't say CT scan. You need a contrast and a CT scan with angiography possible. So it will give you a comprehensive appearance.
True.
Okay. Sanjay, you were saying something? Yes.
Sir, in responding to your question, that patient has to be again here stable. He has to be stable. Angioembolization is a procedure that patient will go into the cath lab. Okay. So a unstable patient cannot go into the cath successful. Then what will happen that the patient will require into the shifting to the theater for surgical intervention, and you may lose a life of a patient. So here patient has to be stable. There should be an identifiable bleeder on CECT or CT angio. When you do, there is extravasation, you do a proper triple phase contrast anal CT scan, arterial, venous, and a late phase, so that you can identify exactly from where it is bleeding. And then you go for a DSA so that you can selectively embolize or super selectively embolize, depending on the skill of a performer. And it cannot be for just a major renal artery, because when you are going for a major vessel like that, as you rightly mentioned, it will end up with the autonephrectomy.
So understand this point. Yes, it has a role, but it's not available in all cases. In grade 5, usually you will anyway explore, and that is the right. In that context, I think there is some question was there. So should we always take a consent of nephrectomy?
In unstable patients,
anyway, the point is that we are exploring anyway. In those cases only. If we are not exploring, that's a different thing. Yes, Rohit, you want to say something?
Yes, sir. Regarding the legal aspects of this particular scenario, whenever you are taking any patient for an emergency exploration, it's always an informed consent that, as a life-saving manner, whatever organ you need to take out, that consent has to be there, because it is not
I absolutely agree. Whether we will remove it or not, it's a different thing.
You go ahead with
one day before, I had a discussion in round, as you know. There was a patient of hernia, 70-year-old patient of obstructed hernia. Patient was taken for surgery. Patient became all right. In round, I asked a question. Did you take a consent of
Orchidectomy.
So same. Ideally, you should take a consent
We should
of
take. We
orchidectomy,
should take.
particularly in 70-year-old patient, because you may not do mastoplasty, then the removal of kidney testis might be a. So this is the way. Always it is. Somebody has asked, I would say, if you are going to explore the patient, consent of nephrectomy should be that. So because you don't know what will be the peroperative finding. Sanjay?
Yes, sir. Like in trauma, what we say is a consent of laparotomy or whatever procedure you are going to do, major part of it should be there. But many times we do not know what are we going to perform intraoperatively. Like say, for example, we find inadvertently intraoperatively that the patient will require nephrectomy, which was not planned before. Then in that case, if time permits, either you or your associate team of surgeon can come out and counsel the relative at the time and at least inform them so that you can do some portion of informed consent. But if patient is absolutely unstable, you are in no time to do for a consent, it's fine. You can take retrospectively also. Medical legal, it is as good as perfect consent because the life takes priority over formalities.
The another issue is that if you have done a nephrectomy and relatives refuses to give consent.
That's fine, sir. In court of law, once your notes suggestive of so, and your findings are well narrated, well documented, in the informed consent of taking a major decision for laparotomy, once it is given, it is perfect.
Okay. So the consent, broad consent of laparotomy,
yes,
that should be there. And one more question. If the CT was not possible and you explore the patient, then
also it's fine, sir.
Yes. Again, in those cases, retrograde consent may be, because once in a while it will happen that you have not taken a consent and you need to do it. For a spleen and everything, it is okay. But for kidney patients, relatives are very sensitive.
True.
That is the biggest problem as far as the kidney is concerned. Himanshu?
Yes, sir. You're right. You should take the consent.
Yes. But it is a rare circumstances, retrograde is okay, I think so. But as far as possible, I would say that we should take consent if you are suspecting it is a bad injury like that. Okay.
Spend enough time in documentation. That is the crux of it. Whatever you do, enough documentation.
That is the biggest problem with
ourselves.
Okay. Yes, Chintan?
For operative management, there are some absolute indication for the to operate the patient. If the patient is hemodynamically unstable, if the CT scan is suggestive of there is a expanding or pulsatile renal hematoma, suspected renal pedicle avulsion or uretropelvic junction disruption, and the patient is worsening even after the trial of the conservative management, so we need to operate that patient.
The last part, I would like some comments from urologist. I don't know. I don't have much idea about that. Uretropelvic junction disruption. Is it
Sir, other than that, I would like to comment that in a case of PUG obstruction, there are high chances of pelvic injury, renal pelvic injury. So patient will present with just urinoma rather than renal injury. It is a renal pelvic injury. But
so that will not be actually an emergency.
No, sir. There is a difference between a hematoma and a urinoma. For an isolated trauma case where there is nothing but a urinoma by which you are suspecting there to be a complete
Somebody, I think Kashvi, your mic is not muted. Kashvi.
So that's not me. I'll just check.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, the disruption has gone. So let us get back to the UPG disruption.
Yes, you were saying yes. So What were you saying? Actually, I did
Yes,
not
sir.
get
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So when an isolated kind of a renal injury where there is no hematoma, it's always a urinoma, which it is not a life-threatening emergency. So rather than exploring, you can always try to put a percutaneous nephrostomy under an ultrasound guidance. Although it's a difficult task because whenever there is a disruption, there is no hydronephrosis. But that is always a possibility to do a percutaneous diversion in an isolated case of UPJ disruption leading to urinoma, and you can drain the urinoma, which is usually the perinephric. That is to be kept in mind. So
So
don't
is it
be
an
rushed
absolute
to.
indication what he has shown? That's what I'm interested in.
No, sir. It can be managed by minimal invasive thing. Yeah.
I don't think this is an absolute isolated injury. If it is associated with other injuries, fine.
Right, sir.
So, but it will not be shown in, actually the problem will be there. It will not be shown in CT also. It will show only non-functioning or will show the renogram. Himanshu?
Sir, I'm not getting the question exactly, but what I understood is that in a case of an isolated renal pelvic injury where we find there is a.
That's what I'm thinking.
So I don't think in that case we can put a PCN tube because the system is deflated already.
Yes.
And even we cannot put a digestion from behind if it is a total disruption. So I think
Yes.
that requires an emergency exploration and repair of that pelvic part. Otherwise, that will lead to increasing urinoma and get infected later on.
So,
So
but
if
see,
it is
how
an
to
isolated.
but
Sorry?
the point is that you are right. Absolutely, I got your point. What my question?
Sir, on CECT, when you go for a delayed images, you can diagnose because the dye will be extravasated. But you cannot delineate between that dye and the extravasation from the
Calyx or Amsel.
because the dye remains the same, and it is very difficult to diagnose whether it is bleeding or whether it is a extravasated dye from which is coming out of renal pelvis.
Just one thing, sir. Is there any record of such an injury? Because amount of force that would disrupt the or dismember the kidney will definitely tear the vein, at least, if not the artery.
Okay. Second point is ideally what I believe it should be treated as a kind of a ureteric injury.
Really? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. So it should be treated like a ureteric injury. If it is associated with other severe injury, then it is all right. But when it is isolated injury, what I believe it should be treated like a isolated or a ureteric injury and treat it like that. I think so.
It resembles more of an iatrogenic ureteric avulsion.
Avulsion, like that.
That is it.
Which was very common in the era of open stone surgery. Himanshu must have seen quite a few. Are you seeing now or not?
Oh, ureteric avulsion?
Yes.
Yeah, I had seen, sir, many.
Yes, I have also seen and done one or two.
Yeah, I have done one, but actually there was senior available and I could manage that part.
It is always underreported.
It is always underreported. But this should be kept isolated injury and it should be treated like differently. Go one slide back.
Himanshu bhai, after how much time this type of patient presents after the trauma?
You're talking about trauma, madam?
Yes,
Yeah.
trauma.
Just trauma leading
Only
to
ureteric injury.
urinoma. Trauma leading to see, there are two types of trauma. One, Sanjay just now narrated, Sanjay or Rohit. If there is a massive trauma, then there is associated some spine fracture or something like that, and that can lead to ureteric avulsion. But my point of emphasis is that if patient is a trivial trauma, not much significant trauma, and he is having urinoma, that means we should think about the possibility of a pre-existing PUJ obstruction because the pelvis is under pressure. Like last time we discussed that with full bladder injury, there is a more chance of bladder injury. In pediatric, more chances of injury. Similarly, if there is a pelvis is dilated and tense, then the trivial trauma can lead to that urinoma formation and rupture of pelvis. So usually the patient present immediately.
But it's very difficult to have an isolated renal UPJ disruption without insulting the hilum.
Hilum, exactly. But that's why he has made absolute indication. That's the one thing. So it is very rare.
Very rare.
Usually such patient will not present very early. Again, because the patient will have a urinoma formation and that is like that. But the point is that there will be, even in the absence of a grade 4-5 injury, there may be non-functioning or non-visualization of ureter. I think in ureteric injury, it will be better covered. Yes, he has said you have written very haphazardly. What is meant by degestanting and drainage of urinoma? Where is he? Chintan?
Yes, sir.
So what do you mean by DJ stenting and drainage of urinoma? Are you going to give detail of that, or it is okay now?
No, sir.
This is it.
Yes, sir.
So what are the indication of this?
Partial injury, partial ureteric or
See,
partial.
just now we
No,
have
we are-
discussed there will not be a DJ stenting when there is urinoma.
No, ureteric we are not discussing. We have just said in a renal injury, what is the role of DJ stenting? Is there any role?
No, I don't think.
Yes, Sanjay, Rohit.
Sir,
No,
he has
isolated. No.
no. He has written as an adjunctive procedure for a very selected cases of UPJ disruption. That is what probably he has written it. But that is
No,
very
here
rare.
it is adjuvant procedure. So
Adjunctive
yes,
procedure. That is
drainage of urinoma I can understand.
fine.
Yes, it is definitely, it can be done and it should be done in some cases. But DJ stenting, I think he must have read somewhere, what I believe, I am not sure, that a patient having grade 1 or 2 injury presenting with the clot colic, is there any role of DJ stenting?
But renal type 1 or 2 will not usually present with hematuria.
But I don't think as DJ stenting in renal injury has much of a role.
No.
Even in grade 3 injury, I don't think DJ stenting will be required. So what is the indication of DJ stenting in renal injury?
I don't know, sir. I am assuming it, but in grade 3 or 4 injury, when there is callicial, major callicial injury, you are managing non-operatively. Patient had a urinoma.
Okay.
Pressure on the pelvic callicial system to early healing of non-operatively early healing of that urinoma. You might put DJ stenting like what we do in for bile duct.
Okay.
That maybe I am not sure. Himanshu,
I know, that's
will
why,
make
because
an-
I want to,
can-
because
can-
I have never seen
Theoretically,
it.
yeah. Theoretically, it is like post PCNL urinary leak, and we are treating with DJ stenting. It's like that only.
I know, like our post cholecystectomy, ERCP and stenting, like that.
Yes, sir.
So
Maybe.
does it help? The point is that yes, what you are saying, some callicial injuries, there is a connection of urinoma. You have drained it once and recollect. Then I think
For the minor urinary leak, the DJ stenting is justifiable, not mandatory, but there is nothing wrong in putting the stent and drain the urinoma.
yes. So that must be somebody, he must have read it somewhere. So there is some justification in doing it. I think so. In a callicial injury, as Sanjay has said, it can be put for a DJ, but not for a clot colic or anything. I
It
doubt.
will reduce the intrarenal pressure. Practically
Exactly.
putting the DJ stent, it will reduce the intrarenal pressure.
Okay.
But we should not forget to put a Foley's catheter in addition to DJ stent. If you not put the Foley's catheter, then if the patient will void, and then it will lead to increasing urinoma.
Yes, that's the retrograde bit will be there. Yes, this is a very basic
Right.
thing, but very important. We are thinking of big things, but don't forget, even the colic may be because of the collection of clot in bladder itself, rather than in higher up. That is also a possibility. You should keep it in mind, right? And that the same thing goes for you said drainage of urinoma when it is required. You said it is additional therapy. So when will it be required in a management?
Sir. See,
I have given you it once. Why don't you take it? There are 3 people we have called in your help.
sorry, sir. I don't know.
But the point is here, it's all right. This is a learning process. You are only second year, so don't worry. The point is that you have read it from somewhere. So when will you drain urinoma and not operate patients like that? So obviously in our grade up to 3 injury, or rarely in grade 4 injury, there may be formation. It is justifiable to drain urinoma or leave it alone. I believe that there is no need to drain it as such. So what are the indication of doing it? When will you do the drainage of urinoma in a case of isolated renal injuries?
Only if urinoma get infected, then we have to drain it. Then it is compulsory.
Otherwise, and or it is causing a very increasing in size. Then before draining it, you have to find out the cause. So what is the reason for that?
Yes. Don't forget the page effect also. So even if contained urinoma in a very, very long standing, it can lead to chronic
Yes.
compression and lead to non-function. That page effect should also be kept in mind. So there are two indications. Number one is increasing urinoma. Number two, as Himanshu told, is infected urinoma. And number three, urinoma which does not resolve with the time.
Exactly. So what time usually is given? We used to say up to 3 months you can wait and watch. There is no need to drain, because by draining urinoma you make it infected. But yes, as if it is increasing urinoma, if it get infected, like a patient is having persistent temperature, patient is also having a high count and local tenderness, in those cases it is preferred to drain. So will you put an incision or put a pigtail or aspirate?
Chintan.
Sir, I would like to put a pigtail.
He is a fond of pigtail. I would say simple aspiration may be sufficient. Himanshu bhai, Rohit?
Yeah, both are sufficient, sir. Simple aspiration or nothing. I mean, putting a pigtail and remove after 2 days.
Yes. Both
Sir,
are okay.
keeping a
Yes.
pigtail, the advantage of putting a pigtail rather than a simple single shot
Yes.
aspiration is at times, sir, because of the, there can be some septations and there can be some residual amount remains inside. So it is always preferable to put a pigtail, get a follow-up sonography in 48 hours, see everything has resolved and take it out safely. That is it. Otherwise,
Okay.
both ways.
So yes, Chintan, you are right. Okay, but so keep it in mind, in initial stage, you should not do
That's
anything to urinoma like that. I think, did you get it, or he has said, Rohit has said very good point. External pressure over ureter or another thing. In a large urinoma, we have seen number of urinoma, I don't know, but they become very large, and one or twice I had to do open drainage because it has become nothing but an abscess. In those cases, because as Rohit has said, multiple septa has already developed. In those cases, in advanced cases, you may need to open drainage, but it is last resort. Sanjay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next.
Surgeries for renal trauma, rhinorrhaphy, renal reconstruction, and the renal nephrectomy. Sir,
what is renal nephrectomy?
Reconstruction.
Nephrectomy.
Nephrectomy, sir.
Sir, दिवस के नहीं जीवना. Yes. What do you mean by difference between rhinorrhaphy and renal reconstruction? You are going to say, okay. Go back. Go further. One step. Yes.
Sir, there are certain principles for the renal reconstruction. We have to first complete renal exposure, debridement of the non-viable tissues, hemostasis by the suture ligation and the bleeding vessels, the closure of the collecting system, and the reapproximation of the parenchymal defect. And if there is need, then we have to put the drain. In rhinorrhaphy, sir, as the picture is suggesting that there is injury in the kidney. So first we have to debride the part, and we have to suture it with the renal parenchyma, and we have to put an gel foam or hemostatic material to close the.
Go on speaking. I lost, I think. Yes. Chintan, continue.
Chintan, you are audible and you are doing really good. We were not doing this much when we were in second year. So come on, don't worry. Come on. Go ahead.
Sir, defect is closed with suture material, and the rest of the kidney is closed with the absorbable gel foam to achieve the hemostasis.
Okay. So in which circumstances rhinorrhaphy? Yes, principle you are saying is right. You can use gelatin, also gel, other material, similar material can be used. But indication of renal reconstruction. In which circumstances you will do rhinography? Agreed. Go back one slide. So you have said rhinography, renal reconstruction, and nephrectomy. There should be one more thing in between, and that is partial nephrectomy. It should
You're
be
right,
there. It should be there. So what is difference? I would like to know. Because remember, when we'll have to explore, usually it is a grade 4 injury. Well, right? Grade 5 injury, these all will, I think it will end up with a nephrectomy most of the time. It is usually for a grade 4 injury, these all things are done. So, somebody has asked a good question which I was going to ask. That how to decide that this kidney is viable or not before going for reconstruction or rhinography. So say so, I don't know.
Yeah, Chintan, over to you. You are here to answer this question.
Yes, you know it or not? How will you know
No,
that?
sir, I don't know, sir. But
guess, no problem.
We can decide it intraoperatively. So,
but how? That is the point. There are preoperative features and peroperative. Both are there, which will be useful.
Sir, I don't know, sir.
Okay. Yes, Rohit?
No, sir, like the thing is, in second year, we are allowed to keep a guessing. No problem. In third year, we cannot keep a guess. So that's why he's been
I will
so
tell you that before 15 days, I was not sure whether he will be able to do it, but he's doing excellent. I am also pleasantly surprised. Am
Absolutely.
I right, Chintan? Good. You have worked very hard. I am very happy.
Chintan, you have done a very great work and yes, fantastic. So keep doing good work, sir.
He was not my resident before 15 days.
Okay.
He has joined as a second year in my unit before 15 days only. He was with some senior teacher who has retired. So he has joined.
He's fortunate enough that way.
That is the way story. Will not discuss it. But the point is that.
Just kidding.
So he is doing very well. I am also very happy.
Well.
Not happy.
He's doing well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how will you know that peroperatively that patient is having this kidney is viable? Preoperatively and peroperatively. These are the two features we would like to know.
Chintan,
yes,
what preoperative
no
investigation? Yeah, Chintan, I will give you a hint. What preoperative investigation you used to do before taking somebody for rhinography? Please revisit that thing. What you have done? You have done ultrasound. You have done CT scan. Yeah. So you can always review the CT scan in your own theater.
Yes, very good.
In CT scan, as earlier I mentioned that the AV contrast phase, if the renal parenchyma has not uptake the adequate amount of the contrast material, so it may suggest that that particular portion that does not has taken the contrast material, that should be the part we have to resect.
Okay. No, resection is not there, reconstruction is there. So the first is that CT, that's why the Rohit and Sanjay and Himanshu all are saying CT with the dual contrast, which is very important point. So you will know there is a vascularized tissue is there or not, right? Second, it will also show the leak of contrast is there or not. If there is no leak in a major vessel, it's a good sign, right? The second part, there can be a leak of dye, which will be the calycial injury, which also should be opened preoperatively. That's what I think. Yes, anything you would like to add, Himanshu?
Just peroperative finding.
Yes, peroperative. Now that is a preoperative, you can judge, but peroperative is most important. So what are the points
The color of kidney is important. Usually it should be pink color, but if it is a ischemic kidney, the color will be changing to the brown color. Then the consistency of the kidney, if the consistency is very soft, then usually it indicates some sort of ischemia. And the most important thing that before any renal exploration, we should take the pedicle control first. We should not explore from the gerotal fascia, but we should take the pedicle control first. And we should palpate the renal artery. If there is a good pulsation till the hilum, that means there is a good vascularity is there. Sometimes we found renal artery in spasm. In that case, we can pour some local papaverine over that renal artery, and we should notice for the change of color of the kidney. So these are the portable, on-table maneuver where we can have an idea regarding the ischemia or not.
Okay, Chintan, one question which will probably come in a general surgery examination if you get such a case. Tell us the approach by which you will do an exploration in a suspected renal injury?
Sir, transabdominal.
Initial flank approach or a different approach? Do you have any idea? Yeah, transabdominal. Yeah, you do. No, you let us elaborate. This is a very, very tricky question. So you open a laparotomy, then. So there are very tricky things. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. This is good. So what Dr. Himanshu Bhai said was you need to take an early control. So how do you get it without disturbing that hematoma? So you do a transabdominal, you open the retroperitoneum right on the vertebra, and from there you straight away approach the aorta, and then you identify the renal arteries and veins right at the hilum, right at the junction with the aorta. So that is the approach where you do not disturb the hematoma. Otherwise, if you do the conventional way, the moment you open the aorta, the whole tamponade will be lost and you will be all blood. So please remember all the resident that has to be transabdominal, direct approach to the aorta. Sir, is it all right?
I think I lost little bit discussion because there was a call, because I am having
which approach you would go, like conventional flank approach or a transabdominal?
Always transabdominal. Anyway, in trauma there is no question of flank approach. Always
perfect.
Always, because remember again, it is a Sanjay's story that it isolated renal injury is very, very rare.
Very less.
It will be, and we would, once we are going in, we would like to examine all other organs. Definitely. So definitely it is a transperitoneal like a malignancy. We always, and preferably by midline incision, because sometimes there may be some organ injury on right side, some on the left side. Okay. So what are the other things? I think, have you discussed that somebody has written, Dr. Dilip Choksi, HOD Baroda has written prick test. That is true for any, even in the small bowel we use it. You see the kidney, if there is a doubt, put a needle on it, and if there is a bleeding, it is a good thing, right? So does the rhinorrhaphy also include chalazial repair or no? Himanshu Bhai, Sanjay, Rohit, whatever it is.
Because no, sir, chalazial repair is not a rhinorrhaphy. Rhinorrhaphy is different than chalazial. Chalazial comes in the reconstruction. Sir.
Renal reconstruction.
It is in reconstruction.
It's in that is the even the partial, even the yes, sir. Even your partial nephrectomy could have been clubbed into renal reconstruction, because partial nephrectomy is a reconstructive surgery. So I'll Chintan, you unknowingly you've taken that thing in the renal reconstruction.
Reconstruction, but yes, the point is rhinorrhaphy is you simply do a joining of the two cut end of the kidney, parenchyma.
Parenchymal repair. Parenchymal repair.
It is a parenchymal repair. When you do the chalazial repair or a partial, it is, you can call it a renal reconstruction. Okay.
Okay. So that, Chintan, one question. How would you parenchymal suturing? So what particular thing you will keep in mind regarding the capsular incision, and how do we do a rhinorrhaphy? Just go into these details. You might be asked this thing in the examination. Go and read about it. You might not be knowing, but always preserve as much capsule as possible so that can help in the, sabotage the thing, or else you can use some gel foam and all that.
Any special type of sutures, Sanjay, for a rhinorrhaphy?
Yeah, Rohit Bhai or Himanshu Bhai will tell for chalazial repair better.
No, I'm not talking.
No, it's not chalazial repair.
Today we are talking of rhinorrhaphy. So it's a simple suture take over that, like a liver.
Plagiated sutures.
Plagiated suture. That's what I wanted.
So you otherwise the simple,
Chintan, do you know what is plagiated sutures? Because that's what I wanted to clarify. He doesn't know. Please explain it to him.
Chintan, you can use a plagiated suture, means there has to be a tissue in which you can use a peritoneum, or you can use a rectus sheath to make it, or otherwise commercially available plagiated sutures are also available, particularly from the cardiac colleagues, so that it comes with a PTFE or a Teflon patch, goes through that, so that the cut through of the parenchyma will not happen.
Okay, sir has put a very good question. Actually, I was also going to put, is there any role of whole kidney in a mesh? I don't think so, but yes.
Sir, see, for the spleen, once upon a time it was mentioned, but for kidney it should not be, because if it is because we do not know how much pressure to be given. If it is going to give too much pressure, then also it is not going to be functioning kidney. Macroscopically, it looks like hemostasis is being taken care of. but functionality wise, it might be hampering. So I have not encountered any case with complete mesh coverage.
Yes, I
simple
don't
suggestion.
think.
New NEAT is available of Johnson and Johnson. Do you use that new NEAT for, because when we attended at Johnson and Johnson, they were showing that you plug with new NEAT or you suture with the new NEAT.
Yeah, Unit is good option, ma'am. For
Means
to
what is
making a
that?
pledget or for, it's a
It is
better
like
version
a
of
pledget
Surgical.
only, I think so. It is like a pledget.
It's like a thicker version of Surgicel. Basically, it is a cellulose material and thicker version. So you can put it around renal hilum or the needle prick bleeding from the vascular repair, or sometimes you can use it to make a pledget.
Okay.
One more
even-
question, sir. One more question pertaining to the suturing is, what will be your direction of taking the sutures?
Yes.
Chintan, that is a very, very basic question, but very relevant in this context. So will you take the way you take the stent stages, or you will take it differently to prevent any parenchymal laceration or increasing the laceration?
I
If you
think,
don't know, go and read about it. This is a good question for you.
yes, that's
Go
why
ahead
I
about
compare it with the liver. That is but anyway, you take the
Absolutely.
figure of 4 sutures, simple sutures,
Yeah.
but should have pledgeted sutures. There should be some support.
Right.
So anyway, parenchyma is very soft, and in many injury, it will be even softer. So direct suturing will not be possible. Okay, there is one more question for Rohit and Himanshu, which I also come. So no mesh, but we can completely cover the mesh with the Surgicel or similar material. That is a possibility. Sanjay, do we ever use that glue we use in liver, in partial nephrectomy particularly, for parenchymal bleeding?
Penetrating injuries, particularly like gunshot or stab wound, particularly on one side of kidney, like upper pole or lower pole, and you want to preserve the kidney depending on the gradations, Surgiflow is a good material. You can have a good hemostasis with the Surgiflow.
Okay. There is one more. Yes, glue I think we have covered. That is usual. Do we use glue? No. Sanjay, glue is same or different?
No, glue is different, sir.
But I don't think
Surgiflow is a different. Glue
Yes,
practically is a cyanoacrylate glue, or it is not going to be used directly over the kidney.
Okay, that's fine. So what is Surgiflow?
Surgiflow is like combination of thrombin and albumin. You need to make it with the warmer, and there would be 2 syringes when it will be mixed with the 2 syringe directly, and you can inject it into the penetrating tract so that bleeding from the parenchyma will be stopped. But again,
Like a
it
liver.
cannot be a torrential arterial bleeding. It cannot stop that. It just
But so
stops
it is
the
more
parenchyma.
useful in liver, I think.
Yes, more
Yes.
useful in liver.
Liver, but can be rarely used in this. Okay, one more. Sorry, but the role of putting a stent now when you have explored.
Chintan, over to you. Okay.
I think Rohit or Himanshu bhai, you should be giving the answer.
Yeah, Himanshu bhai.
It is not mandatory to put a stent, but if you have done that renal pelvic reconstruction, then if you can put it, it's fine. But it is not absolutely necessary that by hook or crook you have to put it. It's not.
Okay, fine.
Apurva, only thing is whenever you do chelical,
Pylotomy and to put a stent.
no, whenever there are grade 3 laceration, and then you end up getting some chelical repair, and there is a significant amount of bleeding. There is always a chance that that some because absolute demarcation between a vital tissue and a devitalized tissue is not there. At time there is a delayed slough out. So in these doubtful cases, you can always put a stent through the calyx which you are repairing, and then you can safeguard yourself. Otherwise, as Himanshu bhai said, there is no clear-cut indication to put a stent in each and every case. You have to be selective. Yeah, Chintan, go ahead.
After indication of the total nephrectomy, nowadays the nephrectomy is very rare, but in the patient with the extensive renal injuries, when the patient's life would not be returned by any attempt of renal repair, and the renal kidney is not salvageable, then we should go for the nephrectomy.
I think again the question of approach comes. I think the laparotomy is a better approach, considering that if the kidney is so shattered that it is not salvageable, I think spleen na to pura udi gaya, sir. I mean, it is hardly possible that you can salvage spleen and remove the kidney. So laparotomy, I think, is a good approach and a fast approach. Any comments, Himanshu bhai, Rohit?
Comment regarding the approach, you say?
Yeah, approach and
it is always midline. It is always midline exploration. It is always
Okay.
for any emergency. It's midline.
Even if you are planning for a nephrectomy, the midline and the direct approach to the vessel has to be there, because then you are less likely to cause any further bleeding. So you control the vessel, clip it or tie it first, and then you open the hematoma. Yes, Apurva, you are absolutely right, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Complications. The first complication is the delayed bleeding, which usually occurs after the 21 days. If the after
so
the operating,
these are the complications of keeping the kidney or after surgery?
after surgery, sir.
Okay.
After surgery, sir. The complications after the surgery. The most common complication is the delayed bleeding. It occurs within 21 days. If the patient is in with we should go for the CCT abdominalis for the localization for the bleeding. And the, am I audible, sir?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
After the CT, after the CCT plus angiography, if we found that the particular site of the bleeding, and as sir told that we can go for the particular lobar angioembolism, so we can go for the angioembolism. Second most common complication is the urinoma. The urinoma, we can treat it with the symptomatic antibiotic.
One minute. Chintan. Himanshu bhai, always you need it. I think we can always wait, or because the hematuria may be for a day or two.
No, he's talking about secondary hematuria. I mean, there is a reactionary hematuria that we are talking about.
Okay.
But the hematuria, because of that sloughing of vessel, he must be talking about.
Okay, then we have to intervene. Yeah. Okay, got it. Okay, go ahead, Chintan.
Second most common complication is the urinoma. We can go for the systemic antibiotic and wait for some time. But if the urinoma does not resolve, then we can go for the percutaneous nephrostomy or nephrostomy.
Digestending.
Sir. Sir, if the long-term urinoma persists and it does not subside, then it may lead to the perinephric abscess.
Correct.
Yes.
You have to
drain the urinoma with the pigtail catheter.
Pigtail catheter. After the operating the kidney, there may be chances of the hypertension due to the renovascular congestion, the compression of the edema, and the some post-op trauma. So there may be hypertension that should be treated with the medical management.
Okay.
For ureteric injuries, the the etiology of the ureteric injuries. First, there is an external trauma, open surgeries, laparoscopic surgeries, endoscopic surgeries, intraoperatively suture ligation, sharp incision, and devascularization. Most commonly, sir, the ureteric injury are due to the iatrogenic injury. The most commonly they are in the gynecological procedures, in the transabdominal hysterectomy, and it may be due to the laparoscopic hysterectomy. In the gynecological procedure, the iatrogenic complication rate is up to 54%. In the colonic surgeries, there may 40% chances of the iatrogenic injury to the ureter. Then any ureteroscopy and robotic surgeries. the symptoms of the ureteral injuries. The patient presented with the abdominal pain and the flank pain. Patient may have or not have the hematuria. The patient
Chintan,
is
1 minute, 1 minute. I think the first thing comes is perioperative finding of a ureteric injury. What you are saying is if these are missed injuries, correct? So I think Himanshu, if you find it at the present, you can always do a end-to-end anastomosis, the degescent, correct?
Yes, correct.
And what should be the suture material you use, sir?
Usually for the ureter, we use 40 Vicryl or something.
Okay, 40 Vicryl is fine. Correct, Chintan.
Yes.
So if you find it perioperatively or your gynecologist friend calls you up, you can go in, put in a degescent and you can close it, right?
And better is the prevention, Apurva. Better is the prevention. If we suspect that there is a huge fibroid or some colonic mass, then better to place a ureteric
DJ
catheter.
before it. Yeah, ureteric catheter or DJ. I agree.
So
Right,
it is very important to identify the ureteric injury on table. The problems are there if we don't identify the ureteric injury on table.
So it is always preferable to have a urology friend rather than a urology enemy. So ask him to join you beforehand.
Okay, go ahead.
Sir, grades of the ureteral injuries. Grade 1, there may be a contusion or hematoma without devascularization. Grade 2, the laceration less than 50% transaction. Grade 3, equal to or more than the 50% transaction. Grade 4, there is a complete transaction with less than 2 centimeter of the devascularization. And grade 5, the avulsion more than 2 centimeter of the devascularization. Sir, most commonly these finding are these are the power of finding that there is a ureter rupture, but CT scan we can do CT scan for the ureteral injuries. There may be that in the ureteral injury there is that suggestive of the medial extravasation of the contrast material and the non-opacification of the ipsilateral ureter.
What are the common sign symptoms you will find for a ureteric injury? For any suppose post-operative, there is an ureteric injury, say about post-hysterectomy or post-colonic surgery. When will you notice first the ureteric injury? When you will suspect ureteric injury?
Patient will complain for the abdominal pain and the abdominal distension will present, sir.
Before that?
Decrease in urine output.
No, before that? There is a drain, no? You always put a drain there.
Yes.
So urine will come in the drain.
Right, sir.
Or for the gynec injury, there is a urine leakage from the vagina. If there is a post-hysterectomy, the patient will complain of urine leakage per vagina.
Right, okay.
Okay,
Sir,
then once you suspect there is a ureteric injury, if there is some excess amount of fluid draining from the drainage tube, how will you differentiate whether it is a urine or something else?
Sir, I will go for drain fluid examination.
Serum creatine examination.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
Okay, so grading is done. Then
the management. Principle of the ureteric injury repair. The mobilize the injured ureter, debride the ureter until the edge bleeds, repair the ureter with the spatulated tension-free stented watertight anastomosis, and the retroperitoneal ureteral repair by closing the peritoneum over it. Sir, this is the flow chart.
Have you got the picture of that? How to do ureteric repair?
Yes,
Spatulated means what? Bas. Show it first. Spatulated. I want to see spatulated. So what is that? Spatulated repair. Himanshu bhai jara samjhao chhokarao ne.
Basically, we have to make the diameter.
Sorry, lost it.
Himanshu bhai connection जरूर लागे sir.
I think so. So what is that, Chintan?
What is spatula, Chintan? You must have used it in 12th standard also. What is the meaning of the English word spatula? Chamcho.
Barabar?
Right.
So the point is there, if you do simple repair, it will end up with the stricture. Understand this very simple point. So there are two types of, one is a spatula, make the ureter flat. Rohit, yes, you can also say that. I think you will be
Rohit,
better
acha,
than. Voice, your voice is muted. Rohit, voice is muted.
Yeah, basically, you need to have a fish mouth kind of anastomosis.
Yes, fish
so
mouth.
what you do is fish mouth. So you have to slit open on one side at 12 o'clock, other side at 6 o'clock. So you are creating two spatulas, right? Wide spatulas, and then you anastomose it. So that stenotic complication will be avoided. Without this spatula, if you do an anastomosis, there is always a chance of cicatrization and narrowing. So you have to convert to spatula by creating, slit at the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock and do a fish mouth anastomosis. That is it.
I think they have shown it here.
That is what is it.
Yes, sir.
This is what you can see, that 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Can you see this?
Yeah.
That he has shown it. This is the last figure. Yes, that's the one. Yes, that's the spatula at the created line is 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock. One side 6, one side 12 o'clock, and then do. So it will be a flat anastomosis and oblique anastomosis. Like in PUJ repair also, we do oblique anastomosis, and stricture formation is less in any oblique anastomosis. Go back now. Nilesh, how are you? Fine? Nilesh?
He is muted, sir.
But he is my classmate. We were together since first MBBS. He's surgeon in Valsad.
I'm enjoying, Pankaj.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay. Chintan, continue.
Patient is coming with the blunt abdominal trauma, and there is a gross hematuria or microhematuria with microhematuria, hypotension associated with any other injuries, and the patient is unstable, and we have to directly take to patient into the OT table. So we have to go for the intravenous one-shot IVP to check whether the ureter is injured or not. So if they are normal, then we should consider that we should go for the any other injuries. And if there is a leakage, then we have to check the site of the leakage. If the leakage is in the upper 1/3 of the part, so we can go for the ureteral ureterostomy with the stent placing, and we can remove that stent after the 6 week with the LASIK, after doing the LASIK rhinogram. If the patient come with the penetrating trauma injury and the patient is stable, so we can go for the CT scan, and we found that there is a ureteral injury. Then same we can go for the ureteral anastomosis, and if the patient is unstable, so we can go for the intraoperative one-shot IVP and explore the patient if the patient is having the ureteral injury. Am I audible, sir?
Yes,
yes. Yeah, go ahead.
After intra-op finding, the minor ureteral injury and the major ureteral injuries. If there is a minor ureteral injuries, then we can put a stent in that urethra, and if there is a major ureteral injuries, then we can go for the ureteral sausage, Boris flap, or modification. If we have put the stent, then we have to remove it after 6 weeks, and we have to check with the retrograde pyelogram. If it is the successful, then we can go for the periodic LASIK rhinogram, for which we can check the patency of the that urine flow, and if we fail this method, we have to go for the any operative procedures like the ureteroscopy, Boris flap, or the sausage flap.
So Rohit, what are the indication of those? In emergency, primarily, I don't think there is any role of that unless there is a loss of ureter.
Sir, these are very kind of an extensive or a technically demanding procedures, and you cannot do a reconstruction at the time of injury because there is always a delayed slough of. So don't contemplate to do these major procedures in the emergency setting. However, once you planned it, then there are different loss of segment and the length of the loss of segment. And depending on that length of the lost segment, you can go for psoas stitch, Boari, or a complete ileal replacement of ureter, but not at the time of the emergency settings.
So suppose what will be the treatment if there is a primary loss of ureter and a primary time when you find there is a loss of ureter? Then
sir, commonly, sir, this kind of losses are more common now, seeing either during surgeries or during the endoscopic manipulation by a urologist. When you come across an avulsion or you have a gynecological cut during their procedure. So at that particular time, sir, the idea would be to stage the thing, to defer a definite repair to a later stage. So if you can put a DJ stent and come out of it, that is number one. Or you can put, although it is difficult, but if you can put a PCN and buy some time so that you give enough time for the actual devitalization to have happened and to get the actual length of the segment loss. So you always defer it by doing this adjunctive procedures whenever possible.
Because remember, when we talk about ureteric trauma, gynecological procedures and a malignancy should be kept in mind. There can be a loss of ureter can also be there.
Significant
loss of that is a likely, particularly malignancy also. So if you know preoperatively, you can prevent by putting a preoperative stenting. So I recommend everybody that if there is a slightest doubt that you are going to have a trouble, it is always, we have made it a rule actually in our unit that if there is a slightest doubt that there can be a problem, we always do preoperative one-sided or two-sided stenting or ureteric catheter. Ureteric catheter will be better that you can straightway remove it. But yes, stenting can also, it is like a preventive measure to prevent the injury to ureter, which is very important. But the many a time when you find per-operative gynecologist call you, then it is a very bad thing. Most of the time, yes. Rohit,
and secondly, sir, during intraoperatively, try to call a urologist to put a stent. I have been called by a couple of gynecologists. They have put a stent through the gonadal vein right into the IVC.
That's a different thing. We'll not discuss that.
No, but that is one has to be very careful. Anticipate the injury, prevent the injury by pre-placement of DJ stent. Secondly, anticipate the injury. Whenever in doubt, do a selective DJ stenting. That is
the best. And pre-operative is best. I think 12 hours before that, in such cases, patient can have a more than 50% of injury can be prevented. That is a very important point. So if you anticipate any trouble during the surgery, whether it is a gynecologic or general surgical, any pelvic surgery, it is preferred that you put a preoperative stent because the surgery of a ureter later on is very difficult. Will end up with a lifetime problem many times because the psoas stitch, Boari flap, yes, they do, but there are always a complication. And very rarely ureterostomy, he has written that, but it is very rarely done, I think. So.
It's very, very rarely.
Very rarely. Okay, continue, Chintan.
If the ureter is damaged or evolves from the mid-ureter, the transureter ureterostomy is the option. In this procedure, the one side of the ureter is moved, the contralateral part of the ureter, and the ureter is anastomosed with the other normal catheter. But before doing this such procedure, we have to confirm that the contralateral part of the ureter is intact and that is not damaged or that is well functioning. The lower ureteral injuries.
Himanshu bhai, your comment. Rohit bhai, your comments. Himanshu bhai.
Himanshu bhai to gaya.
No, he is there, sir.
Sir, તો અવાજ બંધ થઈ ગયો ને? હિમાંશુ ભાઈ શું થયું?
Please unmute your mic, Himanshu bhai. Himanshu bhai. I think there is some issues. I can see him.
Rohit?
Your mic, Rohit bhai.
I think Rohit also wants to leave. He has got some work. So Rohit, it's okay. Thank you for coming. Most welcome for again.
Himanshu bhai is there, but I don't know what has.
Okay, anyway, continue with
Okay.
it. Okay. Yes, I think you lost connection in between.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Himanshu bhai. So what about this crossover ureterostomy?
Yeah, he was talking about transureterostomy, right?
Yes.
Yes. This is what he's saying.
So
Yes.
basically, in short, the message should be the ureteric injury repair depends on the level of the ureteric injury. So if there is an upper ureteric injury, upper ureter means the part of ureter from renal pelvis up to the L5 vertebra. So for the upper ureteric injury, we can still try for the end-to-end anastomosis. We can do the descensus of kidney. We can completely dissect the renal pedicle and we can descend the kidney and we can anastomose with the part of that ureter. But the mid part of ureter is very difficult to breathe the gap because for the mid ureteric injury, we cannot do that end-to-end anastomosis if the gap is more than 3 to 4 centimeters.
Yes, sir.
So in that area, there is an option of doing that transureterostomy where the affected ureter is anastomosed with the opposite ureter by putting in the retroperitoneum, traverse the mesenteric attachment and anastomose with the opposite ureter. So that procedure is indicated for the mid to lower ureteric injury.
Okay.
And for the lower ureteric injury, the different modalities of treatment are, one is just ureteroneocystostomy. For the lower ureter, rather than doing ureteric anastomosis, it is better to perform ureteroneocystostomy because the vascularity of bladder is much more better than the vascularity of the lower end of the ureter. So for the lower ureteric injury, rather than doing ureteric anastomosis, we should do ureter with the bladder anastomosis.
Okay.
So that is the both are included in that.
If the gap is big, then we can do that Boris flap or psoas hitch. And if the whole ureter is gone, then we can have two options. One is ileal replacement, and another option is auto transplantation of the kidney, where we have to remove the kidney from its attachment, and we have to do it like we do in a renal transplant. That is auto transplantation.
Okay. Yes. So what do you prefer, Boris or a hitch? It depends upon the head.
So first, for the lower ureteric injury, first I will try to do ureteroneocystostomy. That is the simplest thing by doing Leach-Greger methods. We just detach the ureter from the injury and place it on the anterior wall of the bladder.
What is that?
That is the simplest thing. If the gap is a little bit
what is
more,
that known as?
Sorry?
Name. What was the name you said?
That ureteroneocystostomy.
And somebody is a method you said?
Leach-Greger method.
Leach-Greger method. So for a
or we can say extravesical reimplantation.
Extravesical reimplantation. Okay. So you create a tunnel also or not in that?
See, tunnel basically to make a tunnel purpose is to create anti-reflux anastomosis, which is useful for the childbearing age of female. But if there is an adult patient, male patient, then it is not must.
Okay.
But for the childbearing females, expectant mother, we should do that anti-reflux anastomosis because at the time of pregnancy, the reflux can lead to renal damage.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay,
but if you don't know that in detail to make a tunnel, just put the ureter and stitches, that is anti-reflux anastomosis, that is fairly good.
Okay. Yes, next.
And if there is a big gap, then we have to do the psoas hitch. In that procedure, first we need to dissect the opposite superior vesical pedicle and sacrifice it so that the bladder is free from the opposite side, so that we can pull the bladder on the affected side. So after pulling the bladder on the affected side, we can take a stitch with the psoas major muscle with the bladder and we can reimplant the ureter so that we can create a tension-free anastomosis. So that procedure is known as psoas hitch procedure.
How much length do we get, sir? Just asking.
Yeah. For the, if you consider the length of ureter, if the loss of ureteric segment from VUJ is around 5 centimeters, then simple ureteroneocystostomy is good enough.
Okay.
If it is more than 5 centimeters, then we need that psoas hitch.
Okay.
And if it is more than 10 centimeter length, then we need to do a Boris flap, where we can raise a flap from the bladder and we can anastomose with the ureter. So around 10 to 12 centimeter gap is bridged by that Boris flap.
Okay.
If the bladder capacity is very good, then Boris flap can reach up to renal pelvis. But it's a theoretical possibility. I had not done any Boaris flap reaching up to the renal pelvis. I had done renal Boaris flap up to L5 vertebra, so that is upper ureter, but not.
I have seen
right
you
up to
doing
the-
one. I have seen you doing one. You and Sharad are doing. I was present
Yeah,
at
that
time.
time conference. That you
Yes,
remember
I have
that.
seen you. That patient. So this is incidental. That was in 2013. Just
Yeah.
in
That's
an
true.
annual
That's
conference, there was a workshop. There was a large
in HCG,
right
HCG hospital.
right colonic mass operated
Yes,
by
yes.
the cancer
Yes,
surgeon,
yes, indeed.
and there was a damage. It was a, I think, planned sacrifice of ureter was done, and then the body flap was done. Yes, I
Yeah.
did. That's what I was saying. So it is always a possibility, sir. Remember, ureteric trauma are more common post-op. Iatrogenic trauma is much more common than actual trauma. That should be kept in mind. And for a surgeon, you should be ready for that. I think so. Yes. Okay.
And for the whole ureteric injury, whole ureter is gone. Then we have two options. One is to put a ileal replacement, isolate a segment of ileum, and we can replace that all ureter. It is particularly useful when there is an avulsion injury by doing ureteroscopy, where whole ureter is avulsed. Or in a tuberculous ureter, some whole ureter is involved in tuberculosis. In that scenario, we can put a ileal segment. We anastomose one end at the renal pelvis, another at the bladder. So that is known as total replacement of the ureter. And the last option, which is not very difficult for the person who are doing routine transplant surgery, because it is the same thing like we remove the donor kidney. It is not very difficult surgery. We remove that kidney, perfuse it, and implant in the renal right iliac fossa. So there is an auto transplantation. That is also one of the options.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Chintan,
these
is
are
it
the
done?
different method of bridging the gap of ureter.
I hope, Chintan, you must have got some of it. Huh?
All,
very
enlightening. But he has he has taken good figures. Yes,
Yes,
this is
yes.
what the body flap. I think so. This is body
In
flap.
simple word, for the upper ureteric injury, it is very easy to bridge the gap because we can always do renal descensus. If we dissect the pedicle, then the kidney will come down by at least 5-6 centimeters. So for the upper ureteric, it is very easy to bridge the gap. For the mid ureter, it is real difficult because we cannot mobilize the ureter too much and bridge the gap. So from mid ureter, the problem will start. So for the mid ureteric injury, either we need to do that transureterostomy that you suggested, or we can do a Boaris flap to bridge the gap, or ileal replacement. And for the lower ureter, again, it is very simple. Ureteroneocystostomy is one of the simple surgery. Just put the ureter and place over the bladder and suture it. Simple.
Okay. That's a very informative. I really learned a lot. Yes. Chintan, is it done now? Anything left?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Done.
So at least show the thank you slide.
Thank you, sir.
Rohit, you are there. I think you left.
Sir, I finished the consultation and I joined back, sir. Sorry.
Okay. Okay.